All right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I want to go a little bit more personal and get a little bit in depth when it comes to the business side of what I'm going through. So what we're going to go over today are 7 tips on how I have personally grown in business and how you can use them too. The first one I want to get into is discipline. Now, I was somebody for a long time, especially in school, I had no discipline, and that lack of discipline was actually really detrimental to my success. I didn't realize it at the time because I was like, man, I'm in school, I want to chill, I want to hang with my friends, play video games, and just watch TV. But that problem with that is while that may work in college and may work in high school, it doesn't work in entrepreneurship. We're in the business because we are the ones who are taking action, and we're the ones who are going to be doing a lot of the business ourselves, especially if we don't have a team around us. But I can say at least when it comes to the business side of things, if you're the one who's a figurehead, having really strong discipline is going to be imperative to the success and the overall growth of your company. Now, what does discipline look like? To me, discipline is having a set time where you go to bed, having a set time where you're waking up. That is doing business when you don't even want to do business. We all wake up with bad days. We all wake up not wanting to do something or not feeling right. It doesn't matter. Discipline is what keeps you in the game. It doesn't rely on motivation. It just simply says, today is Monday. I get up because it's 6 o'clock. I go to work. I do what I have to, and then I finish out my day. If you have the right mindset that goes hand in hand with discipline, that is going to be the thing that keeps you in the game the longest. Because what happens a lot of times is some people, let's say they start out strong, right? I have someone in my family that I make fun of all the time, because I say they are 0 or 100, not 0 to 100, literally 0 or 100. And the problem with that is that you have something called spikes and valleys. Those spikes is where you're super energized. Like, let's say you want to learn how to play tennis. And you're like, man, I can't wait. You go, you buy the racket, you get the fly shoes, you get the fit, you look great. And then for about a week straight, all you do is play tennis. And then what happens week 2? Man, it's kind of rainy outside. I think I'm gonna stay in. No problem. We all have bad days. It happens. And then the second day, you're like, I mean, I'm still kind of tired. And then the third day, you're like, man, okay, I haven't gone. Let me go out for another hour. So you go out for an hour, and then you come back in because you're like, oh, my friends say that they're canceling on me. And then the 4th day, and what's happening is just slowly you have a little spike back up, and then that valley kicks back in again. This is what happens when you don't have any discipline and you're just running on pure emotion and excitement. All that is fine and good, especially early on, because you want to be excited about the thing that you're doing, but it's not sustainable. What is sustainable is discipline, telling yourself and setting a schedule for when you're going to do stuff and when you're not going to do things. For instance, for me, this recording right here has been trying to happen for the last 5 years. I've been trying to do YouTube for a long time. And the only thing that's actually helped me to get into it is I started having some discipline around it. The same discipline I've applied to my business, I've now applied to this YouTube channel. I've now set up a team around me. I've got people to help me record. I've got people to help me put together scripts for what I'm going to be talking about. I even have people to help me when it comes to how we're going to set up the lights and everything around it, because it is a bit of a production and it's a lot of work. But something that I didn't realize is that I really can't do everything despite feeling like I could do everything. So the thing that helped me in the long run when it comes to something just what you're watching right now is discipline itself. Okay, the next thing you guys are going to want to get into are podcasts. Now, what I love about podcasts is it gives you some of the mindset behind the way people are that have been in your position and are doing exactly what you're doing. 2 particular podcasts that I absolutely love, Alex Hormozi and Myron Golden. Now, the reason why I like both of those is because a lot of them talk about business and they talk about management of your money and your finances, and they also talk a lot about the mindset, right? Mindset is really important. Just like how we were mentioning before when it comes to discipline, the mindset behind it, how it's all tied together, what it's going to take for you to be successful in business. Those guys are really big on that. So something that I'm always working on with my business is trying to keep my head right, because every day you're going to get crap thrown at you. And it's just the nature of business, right? Things go wrong in business. I just had a day like that the other day, where I just had a really emotional day. And it's because it felt like the world had crashed down on me. I had a lender pull out the day of closing. I had another lender tell me they need their money back sooner than what our agreement was. I had another lender tell me that they couldn't move forward with a loan that we've been writing for the last month. I had another client of mine come back and tell me that we're not doing the project, like the number of stacks on top of themselves that hit me that day was really strong. And it took having that podcast in my ear to kind of get me out of that crashing state. Thankfully, I also have a great team around me. I have people around me who very much like me. They care about mindset, they care about beliefs, they care about helping their fellow friends and their fellow man. And you need that. You need a strong support system around you. But maybe you live in an area where you don't have that support system. Maybe your family doesn't support what you're doing. But you know what? You put on that video and you play that podcast, or you listen to it in your ear, whether it's a video podcast or an audio one. And that's how you're going to have your support. And that's what's going to keep you staying connected to this, because those are going to be the elements that keep you in the game. You got to have a strong support system, and a podcast is a wonderful way of doing that. All right. The next thing you guys want to get into is working out. Now, the reason why I always talk about working out and how it relates to business is because your brain and your body are intimately connected. And something that I learned early on is that when you work out, your desire to do better in your overall life increases exponentially. So I'll give you an example. When I first started working out was when I was maybe like 19 or 20, so it was quite a long time ago. And back then, my mindset or my drive was so-so. And the reason why it was so-so is because I just had a lot of things going on, and I didn't really fall in love with anything until I got into architecture school. So up until that point, I was just kind of like floundering. But then one of my friends that I had known for a long time, he was like, hey, I'm going to start working out. Do you want to come with me? I decided to join him at the gym, and it was really rough. Early on, it was super rough. I had bad form. I didn't know what I was doing. Half the exercises didn't make sense because I didn't know how to connect with the muscle. But over time, what I realized, as I was building up a lot of my muscle mass, I started to have more drive in other areas because it was a great testosterone boost for one, right? But I also realized that it helped me stay really focused. Before that, I didn't have a lot of focus because I just didn't know what I wanted. But getting into working out, getting up at a certain time, running, lifting weights, it really kind of focused my mind. And I was like, you know what? I really need to take some order, some drive into my life. Then I slowly got into architecture school, and then that's when things really turned around for me. So that was like a great start. Now, several years later, I lived in New York for a long time where I worked as an architect. Now I'm here in South Florida where I do a lot of house flipping. And what that's done for me is that I've continued to take that same work ethic that I've applied to working out, and I've applied it to my business. I just kept the two running really closely together. Something that I learned from some of the people that I've seen throughout my time in New York was a dance teacher that I had. She taught ballet. This lady was 70. She moved like she was 35. Because what I realized, she spent so much time working on her body, dancing, moving, staying in a constant state of motion, that her mind, the clarity that she had, was always super sharp. And something that you see, what happens in some of the older homes? These people stop moving. It's really sad to see. And then slowly they start deteriorating because their mind and their body, when everything slows down, or at least when one of them slows down, the other one tends to do the same thing. Now, is that a general idea or general synopsis of what happens? Yes. And it's not the case for everyone. But I can say in several instances, majority of cases, if you are someone who is very sedentary or somebody who just doesn't have a lot of movement, it's going to be really difficult, even when it comes to states of depression, to be able to get yourself out of it, because when you're laying in one spot, your mind and everything else just starts to fall and implode in on itself. So one of the best things that you can do for yourself, start working out, start setting a schedule, start running at a certain time. Find something that you can do consistently, because you're going to find that once you start committing to that workout, everything else in business, the mindset and where you're going to need to continue going and growing is going to follow suit. The next thing you're going to want to do is look at metrics, because metrics can be measured. And something one of my mentors told me a long time ago, what gets measured gets done. And I think it's so fantastic, because what happens a lot of times, especially when it comes to the influencer world and people who are looking to get into business, they just look at how they feel, or they get addicted to likes, and they get addicted to how many views you have on videos. You got to cut all that crap out. Instead, you have to give yourself rules to live by. Today, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. I'm going to record 3 videos this week, because all of these things that we do where we set a number for it that we can control, it's actually in our actual control. That's what can get measured. That's what can get done. If we just say like, man, I hope this video goes viral. I hope I get 20,000 likes. We can't control that. All that is based on outside control. But what we can control are the things that we actively measure. If we actively measure how many times we decide to go to the gym, if we actively measure how many times we're gonna write that letter to those business owners that we're gonna try to buy from them, if we actively measure how many cold calls we're gonna make in a week, that is what you can now use as your metric for how successful you're being in your business. Because no matter what, everything comes down to a numbers game. But if you're consistent in your numbers, everything grows. Your business is gonna grow, your money is gonna grow. So if you wanna continue to grow your business, make sure you use your metrics as your baseline and not how you feel about your business. Next one we want to get into is reading. Now, the reason why reading is incredibly important, look at all the big names that you know in business. Every last one of them read, because reading is a great way for you to gain knowledge in a really short period of time on topics you don't really know a whole lot about. And the reason why a lot of these big guys that you follow all throughout real estate, business, entrepreneurs of all kinds, another reason why they read is because reading activates the mind. And when the mind is activated, that's where great ideas stem from. Yeah, so if you guys have the opportunity, make sure you guys look for some authors that you can relate to. Because a lot of people are like, man, I don't like reading, I find it really boring. And I think the reason why you're finding it boring is because you're reading topics that you're not interested in. If you're actually interested in real estate and you're interested in flipping houses, I bet you probably would read a book on flipping houses. If you're actively interested in growing your shop that's a laundromat, I'm sure you'd actively read books on how to grow your business a laundromat. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a fiction or a nonfiction book, but I do think it is important to read books that will contribute to you in business. And the best ones that contribute to you in business are self-help books, books that help you become a better entrepreneur, and books that teach you or at least can provide a mentorship for you if you don't have that mentor for yourself. Now, if you're someone who just absolutely doesn't like reading, or maybe you spend a lot of time in the car like me, I'm going to become a general contractor in the next couple months here. So I spend a ton of time in my car. I'm driving from property to property all the time. So something that's really great is maybe you do audiobooks, right? Audible has a wonderful service that you can provide, and I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not sponsored by Audible, but I do think that listening to audiobooks is a great way to you to get essentially the same thing as getting the book itself, but without having to spend the time reading it, especially if you don't have the time or if you just don't like reading. But if you are someone who spends a lot of time in the car or just listens to a lot of podcasts, or you have a lot of time on the train on the way to work, or maybe you're driving and you just don't really have anything else to do and you don't want to listen to music, try out Audible. Try out listening to audiobooks, because again, great way to get some of the mindset that you get from some of these business people without spending the time reading the books themselves. All right, the next one we want to get into are partnerships. Now, partnerships are something I absolutely love in business because they're a great way to get into businesses without having to spend a lot of your own money if you don't have the money to get into them with. I'll take this house as a perfect example. I bought this house with a friend who was my partner in on the deal. She paid for all the materials. She paid for the down payment on the purchase price. She paid for the secondary loan that we needed to help continue with the renovations. I, on the other hand, use my mindset. I use my discipline. I use my knowledge. I use all the stuff that I'm talking about right here to turn this flip around. What you guys are seeing behind me is a house that went through a full renovation. That renovation took about 6 months to do. And I personally didn't have to put any money into it. My partner, my friend, she put all of the money into it herself. But because of our partnership, because of my mindset, my knowledge, my discipline, with her finances, we're able to turn a property like this into something really successful. Now, you can have partnerships in all different kinds of ways. I'm sure a lot of you on YouTube are probably looking to get into partnership deals with brands. Maybe you're looking to partner with a furniture company. Maybe you're looking to partner with a sheet set for bedding. I mean, it could be all kinds of partnerships that exist. But partnerships are a great thing for business because, again, you're taking two people in different places who are high in their own levels and you're combining forces. When you can do that, you can create something really explosive. So if you guys are looking to grow your business, take the time and look into partnerships and see who you can grow with so that your business can grow and do the same. All right, the last one I want to get into, you guys, is mentors. Now, having a really strong mentor is going to be great for your growth in business. I was someone who started in real estate where I was looking for a mentor, but it didn't take me a long time because I actually knew someone that I went to church with a long time ago that did real estate. And I reached out to him after about a decade, and thankfully he actually was willing to be my mentor and coach me through a lot of the stuff that took me a couple years to really get down. Now, if you're someone who doesn't have a mentor in your area, remember podcasts that we were talking about before? Podcasts are going to be a great way for you to get some of that mentorship experience. So if you don't have a current mentor, then you can use some social media or use podcasts or use things that are outside of your control. Because again, not everyone's going to have access to a physical mentor. Or let's say you may say you do have access to a mentor. A lot of mentors charge you. Maybe you don't have the money to pay for the mentorship process. You make sure you use books, just like we talked about before. Make sure you guys use podcasts. Same thing we talked about before, because these are a way for you to get that mentorship mindset, even in the event that you can't get a mentorship yourself. Now, let's say you can get a mentor. You need to take advantage of that mentor as much as you can. Ask questions. I think we naturally, through society, maybe through high school, we get clowned for asking questions, but it's the worst. It's the worst thought process, because questions are what actually leads to success. You have to ask good questions in life and in general, especially in business, if you want to be successful. And the people that you ask a lot of those questions to are people who have been there before you. You want people who have walked in your shoes before you even bought them, because you know that they've already done what you're trying to do. Those are going to be some really key mentors for you, which is why I love podcasts so much, because a lot of the people that I listen to, right, Byron Golan, as I mentioned before, as well as Alex Hormozi, they're really big business people, and they're doing right now what I'm looking to do in the future. So the best thing that I can do is follow as close to the line that they walked as possible, because success leaves breadcrumbs. And if you follow the breadcrumbs, you can do exactly what they're doing too. So if you guys are looking for more content just like this, happy to put it out. Comment down below business, comment down below tips, so I know you guys are listening, and I know you guys are interested in finding out more on how to grow your business.